The late 1940s. China is tearing itself apart. The ruling nationalist government is collapsing under the pressure of a fast-moving, Soviet-backed communist revolution led by Mao Zedong. Communist forces push the Republic of China, ROC, all the way to the southern coast. More than 1 million soldiers, officials, and loyalists evacuate by boat and aircraft across the Taiwan Strait to an island recently liberated from Japan. Mao can't follow them. Not yet. No real navy. No air force. So the Civil War hits a natural barrier, an ocean gap. Taiwan becomes the final refuge of the ROC government, ruled under strict military law. Political dissent? Treated as betrayal. Suspected communist sympathy? Punished fast. But this island is more than a military fallback. 4 centuries earlier, Portuguese explorers called it Formosa, the beautiful island. Coveted by empires for fertile land, deep water ports, and one of the most strategic locations on Earth, at the crossroads of Asia's most critical sea corridors. This island is Taiwan. And after World War II, the global victors decided it would return to China. The ROC claims it as its seat of government. But in Beijing, Mao declares a new nation, the People's Republic of China, PRC. A day later, Moscow recognizes Mao's government as China's only legitimate authority. 2 Chinas, 1 civil war, 0 resolution. Then 1950 arrives. Everything changes. North Korean troops, armed with Soviet tanks, artillery, and rifles, storm across the 38th parallel after getting a green light from Stalin, and crucially, from Mao. Within 11 weeks, South Korea nearly collapses. Suddenly Washington sees a pattern. This no longer looks like separate revolutions. It looks coordinated. It feels deliberate. The US crosses the very defense perimeter it had drawn months earlier, publicly stating Korea, Vietnam, and Taiwan were outside US defense commitments. That line dissolves in a single summer morning. Truman announces intervention in Korea, and in the same speech, deploys the US 7th Fleet to Taiwan to prevent any attack. Not to defend the ROC's ideology. Not to save democracy. But to stop Mao from completing what the US now frames as communist expansion by conspiracy. Truman also introduces a diplomatic invention that still echoes today. Taiwan's sovereignty, he says, is undetermined. Not formally assigned in any treaty. Therefore, open to US protection without officially violating the One China principle. Strategic ambiguity is born. By 1953, the Korean War stalls into an armistice. The US stays in Asia. Bases expand across Japan, the Philippines, Guam, forming a fortified island chain, a wall of deterrence, with Taiwan at its center. Through the 1960s, the Communist alliance fractures. Mao accuses the Soviets of selling out to capitalism. Moscow calls Mao reckless, destabilizing, ungrateful. In 1964, China tests its first nuclear weapon. And now, the Soviet Union threatens to strike the nuclear facilities it once helped build. This is where the US sees leverage. Enter President Richard Nixon, 1969. He wants to play the China card against the Soviets. Kissinger goes to Beijing, secretly, through Pakistan, to start bargaining with a country America officially refused to even acknowledge. In private, Kissinger admits, if the Korean War never happened, Taiwan would likely belong to the PRC. But history didn't cooperate. So Nixon cooperates instead. Not on ideology. On strategy. 1971, the PRC enters the United Nations. Taiwan is expelled. 1972. Nixon visits China. In a declassified private transcript, Nixon says plainly, "There is one China. Taiwan is part of China." But publicly? Washington keeps it vague. Recognition, yes. Endorsement, no. 1974. Nuclear weapons removed from Taiwan. 1979. Formal U.S. recognition of the PRC as the only China. Embassy moved from Taipei to Beijing. Defense treaty with Taiwan terminated. Troops withdrawn. But Congress steps in. The Taiwan Relations Act, TRA, passes. A diplomatic middle ground. The U.S. does not recognize Taiwan as a sovereign country. But it will treat Taiwan as a defense partner. It must sell Taiwan weapons. And it retains the military capacity to intervene, without committing to actually doing it. Ambiguity becomes a policy. Deterrence becomes theater. Fast forward to 1996. Taiwan holds its first democratic presidential election. Beijing reacts with 100,000 troops, ballistic missile tests landing near Taiwan's waters, warships, jets, intimidation drills. Washington responds with the largest military show of force since Vietnam, 2 aircraft carrier battle groups stationed near Taiwan. The election proceeds peacefully. Turnout hits 76%. A democratic island stands firm in the shadow of a rising superpower that had already crushed pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square just 7 years earlier. By the 2000s, Taiwan rewrites its strategic value. Not just geography. Not ideology. But industry. It becomes the world's semiconductor foundry. 90% of the most advanced chips. The chips powering Apple, AMD, Qualcomm, and most decisively, Nvidia, the company whose AI processors reshaped global markets and national defense priorities alike. Taiwan now produces the capability the world can't replicate fast enough. 2005. Beijing passes the anti-secession law. Peaceful unification is the goal, but non-peaceful means are reserved if independence becomes formal, or unification becomes impossible. Washington replies, "We acknowledge Beijing's claim. We do not endorse it. Taiwan's future must be peaceful, non-coerced, and agreed by people on both sides of the strait." For a brief period, cross-strait relations warm, thanks to economics, trade, supply chains, interdependence. Beijing promises, reunification can happen without Taiwan losing its system or way of life. Hope flickers. Then nationalism extinguishes it, on both sides of the strait, and across the Pacific. 2012. Xi Jinping takes power. His agenda is explicit: national rejuvenation, territorial integrity, and above all, Taiwan must reunite with the mainland. The U.S., no longer needing China to balance the Soviets, now names China its greatest strategic competitor. The old island chain defense perimeter is resurrected, not on paper, but in military deployments, tariffs, sanctions, and a full-scale tech and geopolitical rivalry. Today, only 12% of Taiwan's population favors reunification. A local identity has fully crystallized. But Beijing keeps flexing: missile overflights, invasion rehearsals, airspace incursions, naval blockades. And the question the world keeps asking is the same one asked in 1950, 1972, 1996, and 2025. If China moves, will America move too? No one knows. And that is the point. Strategic ambiguity doesn't solve conflict. It preserves leverage. It freezes wars. It buys time. It sustains deterrence by uncertainty. It keeps both sides mobilized, but neither confident. Taiwan isn't just a flashpoint. It's a strategic instrument, geography, ideology, industry, and deterrence wrapped into one long geopolitical wager that never truly ended. Not for 11 weeks. Not for 3 years. Not for 21 years of symbolic shelling. But for 75 years of guessing games enforced by the two most powerful nations on Earth. And that is the Taiwan game. A balance stable enough to avoid war, unstable enough to never rule it out.